Hello everyone, welcome back to Shred Guitar in the 80s. Today's going to be a fun day. I'm going to talk about Paul Gilbert, one of my favorite players from the 1980s and a huge influence on me. I first became aware of Paul's playing reading Guitar Player magazine in 1982. There was an issue with Frank Zappa on the cover, and it was a really monumental moment for me because it's the first time I read about Yngwie Malmsteen and Paul Gilbert. They both appeared in Mike Varney of Shrapnel Records' Spotlight column, and Paul immediately caught my attention because he was about the same age as me, and he listed the same people I loved at the time. I think it was Rhoads and Van Halen, if I'm not mistaken. And he also mentioned that he was working up the Four Seasons, Vivaldi's The Four Seasons on guitar, electric guitar. At this time I was really into Randy Rhoads. I used to carry around a Guitar World magazine that I bought like a month before he passed away, and I would just carry it around and read it in study hall every day. And Randy mentioned all those classical influences that he had, so it really intrigued me to hear what Paul would sound like. Fast forward a few years, I was thumbing through Guitar World magazine and I came upon an ad for Shrapnel Records. And in this ad they mentioned this album by this band called Racer X. It had this amazing, I think at the time he was 18-year-old guitar player named Paul Gilbert. Now, I used to read the Guitar Player magazines over and over and over and over, so that name Paul Gilbert stuck with me from the Spotlight column. So I rushed out and bought this album and was totally blown away. I was totally into Yngwie Malmsteen at the time. And when I heard this album, the picking and the speed was just amazing. Another thing that was really cool was I heard like elements of Loudness in there, and Judas Priest, Gary Moore, a lot of other bands and guitar players that I was really into. Paul was just like full-on humbucker into a Marshall, just blasting, and you know, it was amazing to hear that technique with that tone, playing that kind of really aggressive kind of hard rock metal sound. The first lick I learned from the album was from the song Street Lethal, and it was a little break right before the solo, and it was really cool because I was sort of familiar with part of the lick, but I didn't realize you could loop it in the fashion that Paul did. The first part of the lick I'd been practicing for a long time. When I first heard Yngwie in Alcatraz, I went into my guitar teacher and I was like, help, I need to pick fast, show me how to pick, you know, and so he showed me this lick that he learned from Al Di Meola. Well, it just happened to be the same lick that Paul was playing a lot on this album. It has sort of come to be known as the Paul Gilbert lick now because of his Intense Rock video. It was the first lick on that and kind of was a lick that really chained a lot of things together on that video. The lick in Street Lethal goes 14, 15, 17, 14 on the first string to 17, 15 on the second string. So it's just a common lick now, it's pretty common, but it's really kind of hard to play. And if you're an alternate picker, it's almost become a rite of passage how well you can play this lick. It's kind of like the bench press if you're a weightlifter. For me, I just use an elbow mechanic, and I'm just going back and forth. I don't change or slant my pick at all when I switch strings. I just kind of pretend the string's not there. One thing you can kind of do, maybe, is just do 6 notes up and master that first to feel the motion. That way you don't have that just one stroke on one string kind of movement. You have more strokes, so it's a little easier to get at first. The cool thing that Paul did on this lick was after playing that lick, he would just loop it by going like this. And that's a really fun lick to practice. It's great for your technique, and I would just go for the phrase, make sure the triplets are going before you start just trying to shred it. Another lick that's all over the album Street Lethal is a really cool lick that's almost, to me, a variation of Van Halen. And what he's doing with this lick is he's doing like a 6-note lick, where he's going like 4, hammer to 5, pull off the 4 with an upstroke. Then he plays 7 on the 4th string with his little finger. Then he goes 4, 7, upstroke, downstroke on the 3rd string. So you get kind of that triplet feel. It's a cool lick to kind of just practice by itself to get that triplet feel going. Then what Paul does is he'll go a 5-note lick, starting with an upstroke. So he goes 5, hammer to 7, pull off the 5, pull off the 4. Then with the downstroke, he'll play 7 on the 4th string. So your upstrokes are actually on the downbeat, and Paul does a lot of that, where your upstrokes are on the downbeat. A variation of this in E minor would be do the same lick at the 12th fret, hammering to 14, play 15 on the 2nd string, and then go 12, 15 on the 1st, and then you're going to do the 14 hammer to 15, pull off the 14, pull off the 12, to 15 on the 2nd string. So it's the same lick, just with a little different shape at the 12th fret. That's a really cool lick, and he kind of mixes up Dorian and Aeolian and really gets a unique sound. And the lick is just variations of the lick we just did. I love the little jam to YRO. I thought I would show it to you. I noticed some of the tabs aren't really correct. What he's doing is he's going, so he's going 6th string open, 7th fret power chord on the 5th string, and then he plays 3rd fret on the 5th string, 4th fret on the 4th string, and plays 5, 4, 3, 1, 2. So it's, and then he'll do this descending scale 32nd notes, which is 3, 2 on the 4th string, 5, 3, 2 on the 5th string, 5, 3, 2 open on the 6th string. And then he goes back to the power chord. Then he goes 5 on the 5th string, 4 on the 4th string, 3 open, 2 open. Then on the 3rd string, he'll play 5, 4. Little pinch harmonic. The period that Paul released Street Lethal in with Racer X was a really special period for me, guitar playing wise. There were so many amazing guitar players coming out that time. You had Tony McAlpine come out with Edge of Insanity, Vinnie Moore with Mind's Eye, Paul's playing. I was really into like David T. Chastain. And you still had Van Halen out there putting out amazing stuff. Alan Holdsworth. I mean, it was just an amazing time to be a guitar player. Eric Johnson Tones came out around that time, which is just another huge influence on me. The Racer X stuff was really cool because everything was laid out real logically, so it was great to practice. Phrasing wise, a lot of it was pretty straight, and you could just practice with the metronome on some of the faster runs. But he also played really cool free phrasing too that was kind of hard to get, so it was kind of a mix. Paul is just an amazing player, and he's really just done so many really cool innovative things. What Paul's thing is, he kind of takes a lick and then he'll just stretch it and get all these variations, and that's kind of what I learned from him, listening to all the Racer X albums. Today's album pick is one that I love. It's an album that I go to all the time when I need to be inspired. And I know it's an album that Paul Gilbert likes also. And this is Disillusion by Loudness. I got this album when it first came out after reading about them in Record Review magazine. And when I put this on the turntable and cranked it up, I just was blown away by Akira's playing, his tone. The songwriting's amazing, the atmosphere of the album, I love the production on it. Every song on here is just excellent. Crazy Doctor is the opening song that I just played. I just love that riff. He has that little cool arpeggio break in the middle. Esper is just a flat out scorcher. He does a really cool guitar solo on here called Explorer, which he almost does some Gary Moore kind of arpeggio playing with some cool tapping and open string stuff that was kind of a staple of the live concert back then. But I love Aries Lament. That's a great one. Every song on here is just, it's great. I mean, it's amazing. If you haven't ever heard this album, I really recommend you streaming it or going out and getting it. Disillusion by Loudness is a classic. I would say this is probably my favorite Loudness album, right there with Thunder in the East. I really, like I said, I love the production and Akira's tone on this very much, so I thought this would be a fun one today to go over. Disillusion by Loudness. Well, thanks for joining me. I sure had a blast covering Paul Gilbert today, and I'm going to do a lot more Paul and a lot more players from a lot different genres. I'm going to do some 70s players also, maybe start a little 70s kind of series. But I'm just having a blast doing this. I love playing guitar. I actually do a lot of acoustic guitar stuff, and I have an album coming out, which is, it's all this kind of playing, but it's done on the acoustic, but a little more atmospheric, and it's kind of hard to describe, but I'll be posting some of that too. But yeah, thanks for joining me, and thank you to all of you that have liked and subscribed to my channel. If you haven't and you like this, please do. I'm going to do a lot more, and I'm really enjoying it. So thanks a lot for hanging out with me, and have fun picking.